If you watch my TikTok, you know I love to sew. And this channel is called J.ustC.olor. So, I want to help you start creating your own clothes. Let's get started. I use 3 main pair of scissors. The first pair is used for patterns. Because I use them on paper, it's hard to cut fabric with them, as you see here. The second pair is only for fabric, so I get a nice clean cut with those. And then with the third pair, the smaller pair, I usually keep this close to my sewing machine, and this is just for cutting little pieces of thread off of my fabric. Pins are used for holding your fabric together before you sew, and the pin cushion holds all your pins so that they're not scattered everywhere on the floor and stabbing you in the foot. Next, we have sewing needles, and these are used to push thread through fabric and weave 2 or more pieces of fabric together. There are many types of sewing threads in a large array of colors. For beginners, I recommend an all-purpose thread in the same color as your fabric of choice or in a neutral color. If you're using a sewing machine, it will come with a bobbin or several bobbins. This thread is used for the bottom stitch of your sewing, and it is important to use the same thread on your sewing machine and on the bobbin. If you don't, you may have some issues later. Next, we have a needle threader, and what you're going to do is take the metal part and poke it through your needle eye. After you push it through, you're going to take your thread and thread it through the open part of your needle threader. Then you're going to take the whole needle threader and pull that until your thread has been threaded into the needle. I don't usually use these. It does help if you need to thread your sewing needle, but I just like to thread it the classic way. This is my sewing machine. It's about 12 plus years old. You don't need a sewing machine to start sewing, but it does make sewing a lot easier and faster. I can't stress this enough. Keep your manual. This is like the Bible to your machine. Next is the seam ripper. It's like the undo button for sewing. And these are very sharp, so always make sure you keep the cap on them when you're not using them. They're used to push under the seam and cut or rip the stitch without harming the fabric. Seam rippers can also be used for making small holes or pockets, but remember, they're sharp, so be careful. Measuring tapes are important because, unlike a straight ruler, they can be manipulated to measure around something. That can make it way easier than having to do a lot of math. In conclusion, you don't need a lot of fancy stuff to start sewing. You just need the basics. A lot of stores like Hobby Lobby and Walmart have beginner sewing kits, and that's a great way to get started. The more you start sewing, the more your arsenal will grow. You'll start getting tools and trinkets that'll really just help your creations come to life.